Great.
Hello, everyone. Here at Fellowship Chapel, we are for Macomb, for the world, and for you. So I'd like to welcome you to the forYou podcast, where we plan to continue the conversation about all the goings-on here at Fellowship Chapel. Joining me today, our lead pastor, Robert Wendt.
How's it going?
And behind the cameras, we have Michael Kylo Rentz, who will be dealing with all of our audio-visual and other type drama. So, Robert, recently, we just had Volunteer Day in which you laid out the church's vision for the fall. A lot of really great, exciting things. First thing I'd like to ask you about is the For the One initiative. Tell us about it.
The For the One. It's not out yet, though.
Oh, wait. When are we releasing this? When's that being announced officially?
After Labor Day.
After Labor Day, all right.
Am I allowed to? Okay, I'll talk about it. Because, at the volunteer rally, we had over 50 volunteers come together, and we were able to rally around different elements of serving. And one thing I love about our church is they have a servant heart, and we have so many people that serve diligently each and every week in different capacities. And so we wanted to rally around a bunch of different things. And then I really wanted to have the opportunity for them to get the first taste of what we're going to do in the next fall. And so coming this fall, it's not a building campaign. Okay. Shocker, right? Do churches need bigger buildings? Sometimes. That's always awesome if you can, but we don't need a bigger building. So not a building campaign. It's not some fancy campaign that is kind of like, wow, this is something revolutionary. It's actually a campaign that gets right into Scripture. Shocker, right? So we're doing something called For the One. And so there's this story that Jesus tells. He told all these parables, and he told this parable of these sheep. And how many sheep were there, Andrew?
There were, I believe, 100 sheep.
There were 100 sheep, yep. And there were 100 sheep, but one went astray. And so there's theological debates about this all the time, and it's not even worth our time to get into the theology of it. And let's say doctrinal debates more than theological debates. But what happens in the story? One gets away. And what does the shepherd do?
He leaves the 99 and he goes after the one.
Correct. And he goes after the one. So he leaves 99 sheep.
Unattended, that it could be eaten by wolves.
To go after one.
Okay, got it.
Right. So as a church, we're trying to ask, how are we being for that one sheep? Oh. Because there's a lot of ones out there.
Okay.
Everyone has a story. Every one of you watching has a story. Every one of us here has a story. Michael has a story. I mean, Michael, we go way back.
Yeah.
Right? So he knows stuff about me that makes him question sometimes why I'm the pastor.
No, not at all.
And send your questions to Michael at For the One at Fellowship Chapel.
There we go. Exactly. But the point is, what? We all have a story.
Right.
And we're here because somehow Jesus interacted in our story, usually through people, and he got a hold of us, and then he got a hold of our lives, and we were drastically changed because of it, right?
Yep.
And so the idea is each one of us who proclaim Jesus as our Savior should be doing what he did for us or what others did for us. And we should be his hands and feet and go out and find one person that we can share the love of Jesus with.
Very good. All right, now that's great in theory. How does it work in practice?
Yeah, so how it works in practice is there's a couple things. One, we need to be built up and trained up, right? Okay. And so if you look at 2 Timothy 2:2, if you look at that passage, do you recall the passage?
I don't off the top of my head.
Come on, Andrew.
I'm such a disappointment.
Michael, do you know the passage, 2 Timothy 2:2?
Hold on.
Not off the top of my head.
Hold on. Just so you guys know, we're probably not going to edit this out.
Oh, this is 100% going out.
This has to be in. All right. So here's the thing. In the passage, in 2 Timothy 2:2.
All right, hold on. Hold on, right there from Sunday, 2 Timothy 2:2. All right, we are going with NLT because that's the official. You have heard me teach things that have been confirmed by many reliable witnesses.
Witnesses, not weaknesses.
Not
witnesses.
Now we don't want to talk about mispronunciations. Now teach these truths to other trustworthy people who will be able to pass them on to others.
So what's it saying? It's saying, look, you know something, and it's really centered around the good news of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. You know something. This has been confirmed by witnesses. We see throughout that Paul even went and he tried to make sure it was confirmed that he had the right story, that everything lined up, right? And it's been confirmed. We see that there's testified that over 500 people witnessed the resurrection just that at the moment. Then we see all the disciples. I mean, it was crazy, right? We see what happened in Acts 2. And so later on, Paul is saying, look, you've heard these things, but now you got to teach these things to faithful men who are going to do what? Teach other faithful men.
Okay.
And so the word that's used there is the word for mankind. Okay. So it's not talking about, hey, men teach men. It's as much as, as a man, I'm like, yeah, big man. No, it's talking about you as a follower of Jesus, woman, man,
right?
Wherever you're at, you're to teach other faithful followers to be faithful followers. And so the question becomes, how do we do that as a church? How do we do that? How do we teach and raise up people? And so we started to look at all the things that we're doing around here, and we started to look at all the things that we're doing well. And there's great ways that we do a lot of that, right? We teach in the children's ministry. We teach in the student ministry. We have community groups. We have all these great things. But you're like, how can we dig deeper? So the idea is we looked at this Bible buddy in the year. You did Bible buddy.
Yes, I did.
Michael,
I started with Sarah beforehand.
Yeah, he got a head start, but we'll get him into it. But the idea was we challenged the church to read the Bible in a year.
Okay.
And we put everyone in groups of 4. And in each of those groups, most everyone was with people from fellowship.
Right.
And so this year we're going to say, look, you've read the Bible once. You now have trudged through Leviticus, some of the tougher ones to kind of get through, right?
Yeah.
And you've made it through. Now you pick someone, you find someone to walk through it with you next year. What are you doing? You've been trained up. And now what are you going to do? You're going to bring other people with you. See, Jesus said in Matthew 28, he said, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing and teaching them. And in that, we often have mission statements based off of it, and we base a lot around that whole passage in Matthew. But we stop at something called go and make disciples. And so we see our end goal is, okay, let's get someone into church. And once we get into church, and once they get baptized, then they're a disciple, they're a follower of Jesus, we're done, kind of wipe our hands of it.
Right.
That's not what I see when I then go further, and I get to 2 Timothy 2:2. What do I see? I see Paul who poured into Timothy, and now Timothy is pouring into others. And so really, it's not about making disciples, it's about making disciple makers. As Christians, we're not called just to be followers of Jesus. We're called to partner with Christ in helping others not only know Jesus, but then grow in their relationship with Jesus. And so that's what our big for the one is all about, is that we want to empower people to be more bold, to grow in their faith, and then to help other people grow in their faith. And so there's an evangelism part, right? Okay. Evangelism being we want to reach people with the good news. We want them to know that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, that no one comes to the Father except through him, that he rose from the dead, that there's hope, that we can experience heaven here on earth, which we all know we need a little bit of heaven here on earth, right? We want the world to know that they can experience that. We want the world to know there's a kingdom bigger than any earthly kingdom. Like we just preached recently. Right. In Isaiah 40, what does God say about the nations? They're but a little bucket, right?
You're grasshoppers.
Yeah. But he said the nations are nothing to God. So we put all of our hope in politics and nations and all of these things, but to God, they're so minute and small. We've seen great kingdoms come and go, but his kingdom never ends. And we want people to know that. We want them to know the hope that is in that. And so there's an evangelism, sharing that part, loving people, loving our community, loving our world. But there's a part also of, okay, what do we do with that? Once people are eager to learn more, it's our duty to help them grow in understanding and knowledge and application. Okay. And so we want to get more involved in our community. I mean, we do a lot in the community. Okay. It's amazing to think of how many service hours go right here in Macomb County. But then we want to also help grow in our biblical knowledge. And so we're starting something up called the Fellowship Bible Institute.
The Fellowship Bible Institute.
Yeah, the Fellowship Bible Institute.
Now, is there going to be an abbreviation for the Fellowship Bible Institute?
Right now, I'm kind of stuck at FBI. It just sounds cool.
Me and the FBI don't get along too well, but all right.
Michael doesn't like FBI.
FBI, open up! Is that a meme or a GIF? I don't know the difference.
We got the soundbite. I'll throw it in there.
All right. FBI, open up!
Yeah, there we go. All right. So the thing about the FBI
All right.
is it's Fellowship Bible Institute, right?
I like it.
And the idea is we looked and we said, wow, God's blessed us with people who have been trained, maybe with a PhD or a Master's of Divinity or some type of theological education from a master's level. How are we imparting that? What are we doing with that? That's not just reserved to just have preach a sermon now or then, lead a Bible study now and then. We should be doing more. And so we're looking at and actually starting a 3-year program where we're going to do a little mini Bible college.
Nice.
Right here, yeah. But the best part is you don't have to go into debt for it.
Nice.
Because we're sharing resources as Christians, right? Like we're called to do. And so we're just going to be starting that in October.
Okay.
And that's going to start up, and then that's going to start a 3-year journey, and we're going to see what happens. There's a lot of interest, so it's kind of exciting.
Very good. All right. Well, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor.
Hi, it's Luke. On September 20th, here at Fellowship, we will be resuming our kids and student ministries at 7 p.m. As someone who's gone through the kids ministry and is currently a part of the students ministry, it's a great time to learn about the Lord and to worship with other believers. We hope to see you there.
All right, we're back on the forYou podcast. Now, we have just completed week 3, just moving into week 4 of this really great apologetic series.
I'm glad you think it's great.
It's been fantastic.
At least we have one fan.
Very good. Some. There's a few people that liked it. So week 1 was Don Petty. He taught on Is the Bible Reliable? Second week, I believe, was you talking about is Christianity or why is Christianity exclusive?
Yep.
And we just completed the week of why do good things happen to bad people?
No, why do bad things happen to good people?
That makes
I've
more
been waiting
sense.
for that to happen.
That does
Because
make more
I
sense.
was trying to say something about that. There's a great book that's about why do bad things happen to good people. And I would tell people about it. I'd say, when good things happen to bad people, they're like, why does good things happen to bad people?
I know.
It is a good question. It is, yeah.
So I guess let's talk about this. What's kind of the heartbeat behind why this series now, and kind of the reactions that you've gotten? Because, I mean, there's been a good buzz amongst people in the church really excited about it and really engaged with it.
Yeah, so what I really began to realize is I've had these conversations escalating more and more frequently with people, where it seems like there's people who have had no faith that are intrigued by an idea of having faith, especially in Christianity. I think a lot has been happening in our society, in our world, that's causing people to ask questions.
Isn't the term a nun, N-O-N-E, nun?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, religious nuns. They've been growing, but I think that's created an opportunity to have some questions and dialogue. And then there's been a lot of people who maybe they were raised in the church, and they just kind of accepted some of the things of the church, and then when faced with things have started to ask questions and tougher questions. And really, if you look at apologetics, it feels like most of the best apologists are at least 50 years old or older. And so there's not like these people coming in, and I could be mistaken, but there's not a ton of apologists defending of the faith that are really coming in.
To pause, so to clarify, so apologetics is not apologizing that you're a Christian?
No.
What does the term actually mean?
It's defending the faith. It's explaining why we believe what we believe, and helping give clarity where it might seem like there's a lack of clarity or doubt.
Okay.
And so I began a journey of just reading a bunch of atheists. I started reading the top atheists that have contributed in that regard. And it really got me nowhere. Like, I thought, oh, man, this is going to be a great journey. And I was like, no, it's not that it got me nowhere because they weren't good writers or they weren't good authors. It got me nowhere because the arguments just broke down, in my opinion.
Oh, really? Do you have an example?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple, but one is, for instance, the example of, well, why would there be a God if not everyone can know him?
Okay.
Right? So they think of, well, what good has faith done? Faith has just been bad to the whole world, for instance. And so how has it contributed? And if you look and you say, well, the Red Cross was started by Christians. Hospitals were started by Christians. Colleges and universities were started by Christians. All of these things were started by Christians. Orphanages were started by Christians. And you begin to see, wow, all these things that have helped help people find a way to better their lives have been by Christians. Christians have been missionaries around the world trying to reach unreached people groups for decades and centuries. It's not like they haven't been doing it. And so then I began to look at some of the arguments that were made, for instance, towards why would some of the things happen like with Moses or with God's people and the persecution. And when you take the Bible out of context and you don't understand why all of this is happening in the context of it, it's very easy to kind of poke at it.
Okay.
But when you look at the whole biblical narrative, what you begin to realize is, no, God gave these people chance after chance after chance, and he was patient with them, and he was patient with them, and he was patient with them. And that's what gets left out in every argument. And so God was, in the end, always good and always loving and always caring. Now, there were consequences for action, sure, but it was not ever to this degree of, wow, God is an evil God. And so, anyways, that's just kind of a random thing. But long story short, I wanted to take what I would have around a coffee table or at the coffee shop or wherever and just bring it to the congregation. And so it just kind of, how can we answer some questions that everyone's asking?
Very good. Well, so now the one that we just had yesterday was dealing with why do bad things happen to good people. I want to make sure I got it clear that time. The one thing I thought that was really interesting is, as you start talking about it, I'm expecting more of just laying out the defense of, why are we good? Who is good? Some of those, generally apologetic terms that you hear. The thing that I thought was just most compelling was didn't really focus on that at all. It was simply going through Isaiah, just talking about God's nature and who he is. Similar to how Job kind of had the smack laid down on him and he complained, and God was like, were you there when I created the stars? Were you there when I did this? So I thought that was actually a really compelling thing. When you were studying it, did you intend to do that from the start, or did you just come across that by how you were prepping for it?
No, absolutely not. So when I usually prep a message series, I prep a couple months in advance.
Okay.
And I basically get an idea of an outline. What are we going to talk about? Those kind of things. And the original intent was we were going to look at the story of John the Baptist, which we did do.
Okay.
And then we were going to look at the story of Job.
All right.
And Job is, especially in Christian circles, a pretty famous story.
Right.
The guy has everything. He's wealthy. And then there's this negotiation in heaven. And God says to Satan, you can do anything to him but kill him.
Okay.
And so most of his family is killed.
Okay.
All his possessions are taken away. We see that Job rips his clothes off, and he's just so sad about it. And he's grieving. And then we see this whole dialogue between him and these friends, right, throughout the book and back and forth. But at the end of it, what does God do? He says, look, Job, were you there when I created all these things? Are you God, basically, is his question. And we're left with this conclusion that we're not God. And we will never know the ways of God. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. His ways are better than our ways. And so as I'm wrestling with that, and I'm putting it in the context of John the Baptist, where in the text, all four Gospels to refer to him as the way that he's going to prepare the way through the wilderness, which is a reference to Isaiah 40. I was like, I got to dig into Isaiah 40. And as I'm digging into Isaiah 40, I'm like, this is the same conclusion of Job written in Isaiah. So why tell Job? Why not just go through this Isaiah passage? And why not look at how God really says, look, I care about you. Isaiah 40 starts with what? Comfort, comfort. Twice he repeats the word comfort, showing his heart to want to comfort the people from their 70 years of exile in Babylon, right? He wants to bring that. That's his desire.
Right.
And then he goes on to do what? Be like, look how big and powerful and marvelous I am. Do you not trust me? And so when we look at bad and good, that's why I went on the thing about talking about what we often associate with bad is death.
Right.
And that's a great equalizer because we all experience it. And then the other thing is also when things happen to us, maybe a consequence or something, we see that as bad. And so I started there because I thought the reality is we all no matter how we define ourselves as good or bad, we all face those things. And so how is God's goodness in all of those things? And that was kind of where the message was trying to bring us to.
Very good. All right, now by the time this airs, we'll probably be through the series or close to the end. What do we have to look forward to for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so we're going to do a message on really kind of is God anything different than like the tooth fairy?
Oh.
So how do we know that God is actually God? How can we be sure of that? Is it just some made-up thing? And I think the resurrection of Jesus does a lot to reassure us.
Okay.
There's some archaeological evidence that does a lot to reassure us of that. So that's one. And then we're going to look at, and this is pushing me because I'm not a scientist, but we're going to look at how do science and Christianity, how do they align with one another, and see if they're enemies or if they're friends.
Very good. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, well, as we wrap this up, we're going to go into a new segment that we like to call Rapid Fire Questions, where I'm going to ask our guests just a few quick questions to get quick responses. Nothing real elaborate. A lot of it's off the cuff. All right, here you go. Favorite beverage?
Water.
Water. Ooh. All right. Favorite English translation of the Bible?
Ooh, that's tough. It depends on the year.
Okay.
Right now I'm in the ESV.
All right, now you're in the ESV?
Yeah.
All right, very good. Next question is, what is your favorite sport to watch?
Is that really a question?
It's a question.
Michael, what is it?
Lions.
Lions, very
Yeah,
good.
that's not even a sport. That's a specific team. And some people right now are cringing, like that poor
I don't
man.
think we get through a Sunday without some kind of Lions reference.
There's
I
gotta be Lions
quoted
references.
Dan Campbell.
I know.
okay?
Sarah took a picture. She was on Insta-team, and she's like, it wouldn't be our pastor without a Lions reference.
There we go.
All right, next question. What is the book you're reading right now?
Ooh, I'm reading a book called Supernatural.
Okay, by?
You put me on the spot. I never remember the author.
You have to remember the author, because there could be many books called Supernatural.
Who was it by? I showed it to you.
Michael Heiser.
Michael Heiser. There it is.
Michael
There it
Heiser.
is.
All right, got that. What song are you listening to on loop right now?
Ooh, that is a good one. Can I pull out my phone for that?
Yes, you can. We'll allow it.
I don't actually like remember these things, but there is a song that has just captivated me recently.
All right.
And so I heard it while I was at Gull Lake Ministries. They do this thing at night where it's like a refreshing. They just turn off all the lights and you can just listen to music and worship. And it was powerful. And they played this song. And as I'm looking, it's not Chainsaw that my kids like to listen to on their way to football practice. Family Force 5, Chainsaw. No,
All right. I'm not
but
familiar with it. We'll
it's
look at it afterwards.
it's called Bigger Than I Thought.
Okay.
By Sean Curran.
Country?
No, that's a Christian.
Christian,
Yeah, Christian
All right.
song.
Bigger than I thought.
You got to listen to it.
All right. Can't play it now because
It's also by Passion as well. You can see it there on Passion. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, Robert, thank you for joining us here on For the One podcast. Michael Kylo Ren,
It was for
thank you very much.
for the You podcast.
For the You.
You'll get it.
You know what?
I do like the copyright clause. You did
Understand you're getting what you paid for, okay? Lower your expectations. So with that, next time we'll be joined with some other new guests, and I will toy boat. We'll see you next time.